This is Jollibee, the biggest fast food corporation in the Philippines. In most countries, McDonald's have dominated the fast food chains, but that isn't the case here in the Philippines.
Jollibee is a religion.
Jollibee!
But how did Jollibee, a lesser-known fast food chain back then, defeated the well-known giant McDonald's? Well, to understand all this, let's look back on how Jollibee came to be. The story starts in the year 1953 in Fujian, China, where a couple who had a son by the name of Tony Tan Kak Tiong, the man who would later found the fastest-growing fast food chain in the Philippines. But before that, how did he do it? Tan Kak Tiong's family was not wealthy, so they went to the Philippines in the 60s to find other opportunities. This is where his family managed a small restaurant in the city of Davao. Their family were able to save enough money to send Tony to a prestigious college, where he took the degree in chemical engineering in the University of Santo Tomas, not in culinary nor in business. I mean, how could someone with no business background possibly build this kind of fast food empire? Well, you'd be surprised of how many successful entrepreneurs and thriving company owners that didn't really have any business degrees. But before going to college, he did, however, have background working with his parents who were cooks in their restaurant.
We were asked to clean the table, we were asked to serve water, serve ice, whatever a child can do. And I think we learned a lot from.
Since he was a chemical engineer, this is where he got involved in a lot of chemical manufacturing plants. And what intrigued him was an ice cream plant by Magnolia, where he got the idea of franchising an ice cream store from Magnolia.
Brownies? Any day? Every day? From Magnolia Ice Cream.
Which at that time only cost him 17,000 pesos. That's around $350 for an entire ice cream store. He and his family bought 2 branches, one in Cubao and one in Quiapo. Unknowingly, this was the very first step of a long business venture for him. Their ice cream stores were even steadily increasing. And due to their popular demand for warm meals, they eventually added hamburgers to their menu. And this move was a huge game changer for them because they started to gain even more customers. And along with this change meant that they also had to rebrand the stores. Tony's initial idea was to name it Happy Bee Ice Cream House. Happy relating to a lot of Filipinos who were happy customers, and the bee to symbolize the hardworking nature of Filipinos. But eventually, they end up with the name Jollibee to make it more catchy. And they also added their signature best-selling dish at that time, the Yum Burger, to their name. And this is how they started the very first official Jollibee in 1978. It was a very humble but fast start for them. On the other hand, at this time, McDonald's was already far ahead, with already at their 23rd year in operation, with more than 1,500 stores all around the globe and growing rapidly at that. But there were yet to be a McDonald's restaurant in the Philippines, and this gave Jollibee a good head start. And as the popular saying goes, the early bird catches the worm. Because historically, the first fast food restaurant to open in a country is usually the most successful. Like KFC, they reached and opened in China as early as 1987, while McDonald's were again late to the party and started in 1990, when the people in China were already more familiar and have been accustomed with KFC. Well, anyway, back to the Philippines, where Jollibee is starting to gain more popularity. It expanded with more branches, and by the end of their first year of operation, they have opened a total of 7 branches. And what made Jollibee stand out from other local food establishments is their flexible nature. They were able to cater to the Filipinos' taste. They keep adapting and made even more changes to satisfy their customers. Something that's quite underrated in a lot of businesses nowadays.
People said I have a good taste preference, and I know what is good and what is not good. It's just maybe I like to eat.
Like their first big addition to the menu, the Jolly Spaghetti in 1979 was a huge seller because it had the familiar sweet taste as how Filipinos would enjoy their spaghetti. They even hired supervisors and experts in their industry to further accelerate their expansion. They had a better marketing strategy headed by their consultant Manuel Lumba, And by 1980, they had their very first TV commercial. And with that, adding even more to the menu with Chicken Joy and Jolly Fries, and this ultimately became one of their best sellers. And this is also the year that they noticed that in most fast food restaurants, they had popular mascots. McDonald's had Ronald, and KFC had Colonel Sanders. So Tony and Mr. Lumba decided to design their very own mascot. But not just any ordinary mascot. It had to be familiar and approachable. Not like the guy from McDonald's, because this guy might have been too scared for some people. Mr. Lumba was tasked to design a mascot. He took his inspiration from the popular Disney character Mickey Mouse and the face of Nanong Pandak, a popular comic book in the Philippines back then. Adding a chef's hat and a red suit to make their food seem more premium. Combine all that into one concept. With that, this was the birth of the iconic dancing Jollibee. They were hitting all cylinders in 1980 with how to further expand the company, and by this time they were already one of the fastest growing fast food restaurants in the Philippines. And with this massive success, McDonald's have been eyeing out on the Philippine market, seeing massive success in fast food sales. And McDonald's, along with the franchise owner, Dr. George T. Yang, the first McDonald's opened in September of 1981 in Moraita, Manila. And this news would have been very intimidating for Tony, since he would have to compete with the giant. During this time, many of Tony's friends advised him to sell the corporation as early as now, fearing that their success ends abruptly when a better version arrives to take their place. Because for one, they didn't have the experience or the resources to expand as fast as McDonald's did over the years. But Tony, who is a very determined person, was not willing to back out from a challenge. He was known to take chances, and he chose to face the fast food giant. So what do you do when you can't beat someone? You join them. Or you just copy their strategy and make it even better. So at this time, Tony went to the US to study McDonald's. Because if you want to beat your opponent, you have to know every detail of what you're facing. So he was definitely a step ahead. But as soon as he reached McDonald's in the US, he realized that their competition was not gonna be easy. Because in all aspects of their fast food chain, McDonald's was way better. They were more efficient, they were more fast in serving the food, they have a way bigger manpower. But he also took notes of what they didn't have. And there were two crucial things that McDonald's couldn't beat. The two things are familiarity and pricing. Due to the brand that McDonald's have worldwide, making even the little changes to their restaurant and their menu would take a lot of process. While on the other hand, Jollibee could add or make changes way much faster, and that advantage enabled them to alter their menu to suit the Filipino taste. And if you're familiar to what the customer really wants and you provide them as soon as possible, then you'll surely be on top. Jollibee was also far more aggressive in their marketing. They hired well-known local celebrities for their commercials that were far more amusing to the Filipinos. They also understood how to relate to the Filipinos because the majority of their commercials, even now, are focused on the Filipino stories and experiences. And I don't know how you can be more relatable than that. And the second one is pricing. When your raw materials and recipes are more deeply rooted locally and found mostly in the Philippines, the manufacturing of the food comes more cheaply. They have been selling their products at a very competitive price. It might not be the case today, but back then, McDonald's just couldn't compete with Jollibee's super affordable meals. But McDonald's eventually made changes to suit the Filipino menu by adding rice meals and their own take of the sweet blend spaghetti. But they weren't able to replicate Jollibee's signature dishes that made them more popular. With this knowledge, Jollibee has been working to innovate and find more ways to satisfy their customers, and ultimately beat any competitors that comes their way. And what's a better way of ensuring that there are no other competitors than buying your competitors? Because Jollibee Corporation owns most of the fast food chains in the Philippines. They already bought Chowking in 2000, Red Ribbon in 2005, Greenwich in 2006, and finally, their latest pickup, Mang Inasal, in 2010. Until to this day, Jollibee and McDonald's are the only two major contenders fighting for the top spot here in the Philippines, and they're both growing rapidly. with Jollibee currently having more than 1,100 branches and McDonald's having 700 in the Philippines. But what Jollibee was and still is struggling in is pushing Jollibee internationally, because they only have 234 stores outside the Philippines. While on the other hand, McDonald's have already reached 38,000 stores in 100 different countries. And while Jollibee has become one of the most successful fast food corporation in Asia and is now worth $4.5 billion or 250 billion pesos, McDonald's is worth $150 billion. That's 8 trillion pesos. That's bigger than the entire Philippines GDP in 2022, and it's not even close. All this talk about Jollibee is making me hungry, so just give me a minute. So I've been talking about fast food all this time, but ever wonder if MSG in fast food really that bad for you? Well, check this next video out if you want to know if that really is true. But besides that, I'm out.